Israel has cut off humanitarian supplies to Gaza in an effort to pressure Hamas into accepting a change in the ceasefire agreement to allow for the release of hostages without an Israeli troop withdrawal. The office of the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, said on Sunday it was imposing a blockade on Gaza because Hamas would not accept a plan which it claimed had been put forward by the U.S. Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, to extend Phase 1 of the ceasefire and continue to release hostages, and postpone Phase 2, which envisaged an Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. With the end of Phase 1 of the hostage deal, and in light of Hamas's refusal to accept the Witkoff outline for continuing talks, to which Israel agreed, Prime Minister Netanyahu has decided that, as of this morning, all entry of goods and supplies into the Gaza Strip will cease. Israel will not allow a ceasefire without the release of our hostages, it said in a statement. If Hamas continues its refusal, there will be further consequences. After the announcement, Netanyahu's spokesperson, Omer Dostri, wrote in a social media post, "No trucks entered Gaza this morning, nor will they at this stage." The UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, on Sunday called for Israel to end its suspension of humanitarian aid to Gaza immediately. The existence and details of a Witkoff plan had not been confirmed by Washington by Sunday morning. A statement from Hamas called the suspension of aid a war crime and a violation of the ceasefire agreement. It said Netanyahu's decision to suspend humanitarian aid is cheap blackmail, a war crime and a blatant coup against the ceasefire agreement. During the 15 months of the Israel-Gaza war, the Netanyahu government repeatedly denied claims from aid agencies that it was blocking humanitarian deliveries, blaming the very limited flow on other factors. Before the ceasefire, UN officials had warned that widespread famine was imminent. In the 6 weeks of the first phase of the truce, deliveries returned to the pre-war levels of about 600 trucks a day, mostly carrying food. Aid officials said that even with the restoration of food deliveries, the lack of drinkable water, the near-complete destruction of Gaza's hospitals and clinics, the lack of shelter in the midst of winter, and the buildup of untreated sewage among the rubble could all be lethal to the surviving 2.2 million population. Netanyahu made his announcement, which his office claimed had U.S. backing, after the breakdown of talks in Cairo aimed at maintaining the ceasefire as it approached the end of its first 6-week phase, over whether the truce should advance to a second phase. The Prime Minister's office said earlier on Sunday that it agreed on the adoption of what it described as Witkoff's proposal to extend the first phase of the ceasefire through Ramadan and Passover, which end on the 20th of April, during which half of the living hostages and half of the bodies of those who have died would be released. On the conclusion of that temporary extension, the statement said, if agreement is reached on a permanent ceasefire, the remaining living and deceased hostages will be released.